Welcome to the Mixed Movement, where we speak candidly about the uncommon commonalities that people of mixed race face in our world today. Here, we listen, share, learn, and acknowledge that through our stories, we are all connected. We are your hosts,
Nate,
Chris,
and Rachel Go. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, everyone. Today we have Sofia Samara as our guest. Welcome, Sofia. It is so wonderful to have you.
hi, thank you for having me on.
Yes, absolutely. Let's get started by first, tell me a little bit about yourself and where you're from in the country.
Yeah, well, so I'm from Los Angeles. That's where I was born and raised. But my family is obviously not from here. My dad is Palestinian, born and raised in the Middle East. And my mom is Italian and white, but mostly Italian. And she was raised here in California as well. And I'm a photographer and a videographer, and I travel a lot, but that's neither here nor there.
Lucky. That's amazing. So, can you explain to me a little bit about your upbringing?
Yeah, it's so funny. Growing up in my house, and to this day, it is like politics every day. Nothing is off the table. Like, we talk about everything. And sometimes, like, people come over and they're like, you guys talk about this shit at the dinner table? And I'm like, yeah, we do. But, growing up, my dad is Palestinian Muslim man. He raised us as Muslims, and you can't see because this is a podcast, but I'm doing like air quotes because the man never taught me anything about Islam aside from like you don't eat pork and you don't drink alcohol, except for he drank alcohol and ate pork every day. But we're Muslims. And then my mom, she was raised like very Catholic until maybe like her teenage years. And so she didn't really raise us with any kind of religion. And so, in that ways, we didn't grow up like with like a traditional religious structure. But culturally, I always felt like I was Palestinian and not like I always felt like I was more like my dad and not like my mom because I look like my dad. And when you are half white and half something else is what people see.
Yeah, yep. Typically.
Yeah, I mean, I know you get it.
Yeah.
And so after 9/11, it was really hard to be an Arab Muslim kid in the United States. I mean, it was very difficult, and there were many years that I flat out lied about my ethnicity. I was one of two Arab kids in my school, and everybody else was predominantly white. There was like a large amount of Latino kids and a very like sizable amount of Asian kids and like practically no Arabs and very few Black folks in my school. And so growing up in that kind of like an environment, it's just like I was just like self-preservation. And so I would lie, I would say I was just Italian, which that's not true because Samara is not an Italian name and you don't look Italian. I remember one time very specifically, I lied and said I was Brazilian because I just felt like it was a place that people wouldn't question. Like nobody knew anything about Brazil. And the second I said it, someone was like, no, you're not. And I was like, damn it, this isn't going to work.
Right through me. So, can you tell me a little more specifically about like, what type of situations were you in where you felt like you had to speak about your race in particular?
Yeah, I remember the very first day. It was September 12th, 2001, the day after 9/11. And my mom had called the school on 9/11, like maybe after school hours or maybe the morning after, like the morning before. And she was like, I am very concerned. I have two Arab kids in a school with no other Arabs. Do I have a reason to be concerned? Are my kids going to be okay? And the school was like, Miss Samar, It is okay. Everything will be fine. This is a safe place, a safe school. And then she's like, okay, the school has assured me. And she takes me to school, and I'm standing in line, like ready to go to class. And this little piece of shit kid, his name was Michael, he looks at me and he goes, "You're a terrorist. You terrorist." And I'm standing there, what am I, 9, 10 years old? And I'm like, at a loss for words. I'm like, I don't understand. I'm a child. But there was one girl, the only black girl in the class. Her name was Mila, is Mila, and she stuck up for me. I'm pretty sure she pushed him, but I'm not gonna say she did because we're not condoning any violence, even though he 100% deserved it. But she pushed him, and she was like, "Don't say that shit," or "Don't." She probably didn't say shit, but she probably was like, "Don't say that." And I didn't know this girl at all, and I was just like, "Oh my god, she stuck up for me," which of course she did because that was probably something she related to. You know what I mean? Like she was like,
Absolutely.
oh, she's getting picked on because of like who she is as a person. That's something I've experienced. And there's a very happy end to this story. She is still my best friend.
Oh, was that your first interaction with her?
No, I had known who she was the year before
Right.
because we all played like little kid soccer, and she was the best soccer player of all the little kid soccer players because she was a little bit more like quote unquote aggressive, but she wasn't aggressive. She was just a better soccer player. And all of the like white moms were like, "Ah, that's Mila. She's aggressive." Now, of course, in my like 8-year-old self, I didn't know all the reasons why that was like not great because she was like the only little black girl playing soccer, and now they're calling her aggressive. But I knew who she was, and then she did that, and I was like, I fuck with this bitch. I love her. So I mean, I'm sure my 9-year-old self wasn't thinking of it that way, but yeah, we've been best friends for 20 plus years at this point.
That is amazing.
Hi, I'm Rachel Go. It is my mission in life to help people like you learn to love every aspect of themselves in order to attain the life of their dreams. If you are ready to live a life free of fears and land that dream job, or go travel the world, or whatever your dreams may be, message me at coachrachelgo@gmail.com. That's CoachRachelGo@gmail.com. Or find me on Instagram at Live Empowered Now. There is nothing more powerful than loving the person you see in the mirror every day, because courage starts within.
So yeah, that was like the first time I ever really was like, oh, who you are isn't good.
That's a really uncomfortable feeling for a 9-year-old,
Yeah, I know.
especially after such a traumatic national event. That is such a difficult thing for a 9-year-old to have to navigate and experience, and I'm so sorry that you had to.
Yeah, it was definitely unpleasant. I think one of the things though that was really difficult about it was like I didn't know like at all that there was anything like that. Like I think like at least this is an assumption, but I would assume that like other people of color, maybe their parents have a conversation with them at like a certain age where their parents are like, listen, like some people are just going to be mean to you or they're not going to be nice to you because of what you look like. And like, I don't know if that happened, but I didn't get that. And I don't think my parents knew that it was necessary. And if they did think it was necessary, they probably thought it was necessary later on in life.
Right. Well, I can tell you from my experience, I was never told, really.
No.
My upbringing, I was raised by my mom
Mhm.
and my stepdad and my sister's father, and they are all Caucasian, and I'm half
Oh,
African
okay.
American. And I was never told or taught how to navigate those questions. I had to kind of figure it out on my own. I don't think that my mom and my dad ever even really thought about it because I'm theirs, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't think that that is something that everybody, I mean, I can only speak from my experience, but that's
Mhm.
not something I had had a conversation with my mom about, or my dad, prior to entering the world.
I've had a few friends tell me that they had those kind of conversations with their parents,
Go
especially
ahead.
growing up in like Southern California. I've had a few of like Mexican or Latina friends tell me like that their parents kind of had to explain to them like this is the way that like you might be treated in certain situations. But I
Right.
wonder if it's because they aren't mixed, like they're 100%
Right.
Hispanic. So I wonder if it's, maybe when things get mixed, you kind of start to see things through like your privileged partner's eyes. Maybe.
Maybe. I mean, I also was raised, I feel like I might be a little bit older, and I was raised in the 80s and the 90s. So I don't
Okay.
think then being biracial or of mixed race was as common. So I always use the reference when the world happened to me. It was once I entered school and,
Okay.
then I got questioned and I didn't know how to answer them. And I'm sure my parents weren't aware either. But I think this is a great opportunity to have these conversations
Mhm.
because we need to equip or help parents or people of mixed race know how to navigate these situations when the world happens to us.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it because it takes the blame or the guilt off of the person that is experiencing, the racism or the discrimination or
Right.
whatever it may be, and it just says like this is the world in which you live, and and it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to like figure it out.
Yes, absolutely. And the fact that we are of mixed race is actually pretty cool. I mean,
I love it.
okay, good. I was just going to
Yeah.
ask, what is your favorite aspect or perspective of being of mixed race?
Okay, so it's two things. I love the food. Oh my
Yes.
god. I mean, listen, I know we all have our personal preferences and stuff, but I do believe that Italian and Arabic food is the best food. And like
Ah.
you can't convince me otherwise. But I mean, that's me. So I think that I'm like very fortunate that I have a mom who can cook killer Italian food and a
Yes.
dad who can cook killer Arabic food, and now I can do both
Ah,
very,
that's
very well.
amazing.
Yeah, so
That
I
is
I
amazing.
just I love the food aspect of it. Just feels so
Yes.
good.
Yes.
Especially like finding the things in the food that kind of are similar in each other. Like for instance, as an Italian Arab girl, olive oil is just like a part of my identity.
Yeah.
Like it's just coming out of my pores. I just am oozing olive oil, and it's just a part of me. And I don't think there's anyone else who can claim olive oil the way I can because I'm Italian and Palestinian. We literally invented the olive tree.
Right, right.
So yeah, I love the food aspect of it. And then I also love the ability to like have two cultures like create a new one. So like I can mix something Italian and something Arab and mix it together, and now it is this like Italianian thing because it's half Palestinian, half Italian.
I think that that is amazing. I mean, I keep saying that being biracial is a superpower.
Yeah.
And it truthfully, it is. I mean, I'm really, really impressed with how well you are embracing both sides of you, both cultures. And I am extremely curious about your household and your upbringing. And did you find, especially now, reflecting back on your childhood, have you found that there was a mesh between both cultures in your household outside of the food?
It's kind of funny. My mom did not know she was in an interracial marriage until relatively recently.
What?
Um, yeah, I
Wait,
know.
what?
I know, I know. When she told me this, I was like, okay, Mom, go look in the mirror and then look at your husband and tell me if you think you guys are cut from the same cloth because I'm not understanding. But she was raised in the 60s, right? So back in the 60s in school, they taught that there was three races: black, Asian, and white, which meant
Oh,
everybody who wasn't Asian and wasn't black just got defaulted into white, which is done by design. There's a reason for that, but
that's
it's
interesting.
inaccurate. Yeah. And so when she met my dad, she kind of just assumed he was a lot like her with a tan, which no, Mom, no. But not because she's like a bad person. It's just like she just didn't know. She didn't know any better.
That was what she was taught.
Exactly, it was what she was taught. And it wasn't until actually the Trump election when people were talking so much about identity and politics and everything that goes into, racism and discrimination and all of this stuff, that she had to kind of like have a reckoning with like her place in this country as a white woman with non-white children and a white husband. And she's never been racist, she's never discriminated against anybody, but she was a little bit ignorant about the realities of her own children's and her own husband's like experience. So,
Interesting.
yeah, she didn't really know until recently.
So this was something that she just kind of came around to on her own. It wasn't a conversation or a comment that somebody else had had. It was her self-reflection, essentially.
It was a bit of self-reflection. Well, it was a lot of self-reflection for sure because she brought the subject up to me. But I think the thing that kind of like put the thought in her head is I'm very active on social media and I'm constantly posting about, like Palestine and politics and like advocating for disenfranchised people. And I always say, as a woman of color, as a woman of color, as a woman of color. And my mom was like, she's a woman of color? What? And I was like, yeah, Mom, like, I am. You're not, I am. And she's just like, huh. And I think that like kind of got the wheel spinning. And again, it's not because she's like a bad person. She just like literally didn't know. And now she does. And she's like, it's so funny. She like looks back on things that have happened like in the past 30 years of her marriage. And she's like, oh, yeah.
Wow.
Like
Oh
I'll
my
I'll tell you the
goodness.
funniest story. So my brother, he was born, and something that happens with biracial babies is sometimes they have blue spots on their
Right.
bums. And my brother was born with blue spots on his bum because he's biracial. And my mom kind of was like freaked out when she saw him. She thought that maybe like the nurses patted his bum too hard to get him to cry when he
Right.
first came out. And she asked the doctor, like, why is his bum like that? And the doctor said very, like matter of factly, oh, it's because he's mixed. And the doctor didn't think anything of it, but it didn't register in my mom's brain. And then she was like, now she's like, oh yeah, huh? Like,
Oh, I was told back then.
yeah. Or the fact that like my dad's entire family speaks a language that she doesn't know and isn't European.
Oh my
So like
goodness.
to answer your question, growing up there wasn't really this like mesh of cultures that was very intentional. It did just happen kind of organically because no one was like, we need to make sure that these
Right.
kids are both like proud of their Palestinianism and proud of their Italianism. Like it just
Yeah.
any meshing that happened was organic and kind of like accidental, I think.
Which I think is beautiful in and of itself.
It's definitely one way to go, and it's not a bad way.
I mean, it's a beautiful mix of cultures that really, I mean, happened unintentionally and organically in your own home. And I think that that is pretty incredible. But that also explains why you didn't have conversations with your parents about when the world happened to you and you were questioned about your race because your mom was unaware. Was your dad? Did he?
you know, he wasn't born here. He's an immigrant, and oh my God, the way he came here is crazy too. But that's a story for a different time. But,
Right.
he wasn't born here. And I think, like, while he knew that, like, he was treated differently than the average American, I think he chalked it up to, I'm an immigrant, I have an accent, I don't speak the language fluently. I think he assumed that the things that he had to experience, his kids wouldn't experience. It probably wasn't until my brother like hit puberty and just started to look so Arab. Like if you could just like close your eyes and picture the most stereotypical Arab looking guy, that's my brother. And so I think that's when my dad was like, oh, Kareem might have a hard time. Plus his name is Kareem. Like
Kareem. Oh, I love that name.
I do too. It's a beautiful name, but it's Arab as fuck.
Yeah.
And both of my parents, they wanted Arab names for their kids. So, yeah.
I didn't know Sophia. Is it?
It's technically not an Arab name. I think its origin is actually Greek, but
Okay.
because it's a name that has crossed across so many cultures, including Arabic culture.
Right.
It's a name that worked very well. And all of the first cousins who are firstborn, their name starts with an S. So my dad was like, we got to keep that tradition
Oh,
alive.
that's amazing.
Yeah. It's so funny though? Okay. So my mom and dad were like, okay, what are we going to name this kid? Like, it's a girl. We got to name her an S name. And my mom was like, Serafina. My dad was like, what the fuck? Or Serena. My dad was like, what the fuck? And then my mom, like, she saw the name Sofia somewhere. And she was like, that's it. Like, that's the name. Like, I'm naming my daughter that. There's no conversation to
Yeah.
be had. So she was like, how can I convince Talal to go with Sophia? And so she's like trying to figure it out. She's like, okay, I'm going to just like present him the name and tell him I feel very strongly about it. And it does work in the Arab culture. And so she like goes to my dad and she says, I would love to name the baby Sophia. And my dad goes, okay, how would we spell it? And my mom says Sophia. And my dad's like, no, never, because English isn't his first language. And he's like, that just doesn't make any sense to
Right.
me.
So Pia.
Yeah, exactly. He was like, why would you use a PH? That is so weird. And she's like, that's how you spell it. And he's like, no, not in Arabic. It's not. So they went with the F. But
Okay.
that's just like another thing that like it wouldn't have happened in like a white household.
Right. But in a multicultural
Yeah.
household, that is funny. At least they agreed. It was just the spelling that had to be
Yeah.
refined.
Exactly. A good compromise, if you
Yes.
will.
And I love your name. I think it's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. I hated it for the longest. I was so mad at my parents for naming me Sophia for years as a kid, and
Why?
now I'm just one of those names that you can easily make fun of. Sofa, or I have
Yeah.
really curly hair, so people called me Poofia, like poofy hair.
You poor thing.
I
Kids can be
know.
so cruel.
They're evil. I
They
don't
can be.
understand
Yeah.
what happens to these kids to make them such pieces of shit. But now as an adult, I'm like, I'm a Sophia. I can't even picture myself with another
No.
name.
No. Good, as you should. It's a beautiful name, and you
Thank
you
you.
own it
Thank you.
beautifully.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So not that I love talking about hair, but I do want to talk about hair with you because we both have curly hair. It,
Crazy ass hair.
crazy ass hair that's wild and has a mind of its own. Was that something that was difficult for you growing up? Does your mom have curly hair? And
Yeah, both of my parents have very curly hair, so there
okay.
was no chance for me. My dad's hair is arguably closer to an afro. When my dad first came to the United States, because there was no Arabs and people didn't really know what it was, he just told everyone he was black, and he passed for black because it was easier for him to be black than to be Arab.
Yeah,
So yeah, and Palestine literally touches Africa, like it
right.
kind of just
Yeah.
makes sense.
It
But
was easy.
yeah, exactly, it was easy, and I don't know how problematic that would be today, but in the 80s it was fine.
Right,
In the
right.
80s, early 80s, he came here in
Okay,
1980. Yeah,
okay.
so yeah, he definitely has like an afro.
Okay.
And my mom, she has like very soft, like Shirley Temple curls. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so my hair's like kind of in the middle. I have very coarse hair, but it is spirally.
Okay.
So
Beautiful.
it's really I'm quite a fan of my hair, but I
Good.
wasn't for a long time,
I
girl.
was
You
going
know
to
how it
ask.
is.
I was going to ask if you had been because I wasn't for a long time, and I didn't know if that
Mm-mm.
was something that you struggled with your identity growing up at all, or
Yeah. Let me think. Okay, so like all of elementary school, I like kind of just let my mom deal with my hair. I didn't know what to do with it myself as a kid. And to her credit, she really tried. She really tried. But like she didn't know what she was doing either with hair like mine. She was like, "What the fuck is wrong with this kid? She has so much hair." And I have so much hair. Like I have 5 times more hair than my mother does. Just
that's
like how
amazing.
thick it is, how
Yeah,
many strands, and like it hasn't thinned. I'm
yeah.
waiting for it to kind of calm down, but we'll see. And I think the texture has kind of softened as I've aged. But as a kid, it was very like coily, kinky hair, and it
Right.
was very frizzy. She didn't know how to control it, so I just kind of like walked around this world with a frizz. And then I think it was in like the 7th or 8th grade that she finally caved and was like, "You can straighten your hair." And that's when the straightening of the curls started. That was probably in 2003, maybe 2003,
Okay.
2004. So like if you can think back to like the year, what was in trend, like
Right. It was
cute
not
little
it was not
blonde
the
white girls.
80s perm that was
No, it was cute
the
blonde white
straight.
girls with like blue eyes and like thick straight hair.
Right.
And that's what I wanted. And like nobody looked me in the eye and said, "You will never have that." But that's what
Right.
I wanted. And so
Of
yeah, I
course.
straightened my hair from like the 7th grade all the way till my junior year of high school.
Okay.
But girl, it takes me so long to straighten my hair.
I
It always
can't
has.
imagine.
It's a 4-hour event
Yeah.
to
Yep.
straighten my hair.
Yes.
And oh no, I remember the first time I ever straightened my hair. My friend Mila, the black girl, took
Yes.
me to a black girl salon and they hot combed my hair. And it looked so good. It was so pretty. Oh, those hot combs. Oh, they just
Oh,
get so
yeah.
freaking hot.
Yep.
And and it was like virgin hair. Nothing had ever been done to it before, so it was
Yeah,
still very healthy.
absolutely.
It was gorgeous, and it was the first time anyone had ever seen me without like crazy frizz.
Yes.
And so everybody, especially like my white aunts, were like, "Oh my god, it looks so good. Like
Yeah.
her hair should look like this all the time."
Did you
So,
feel
yeah.
that made you feel any different as you navigated life? Did you feel like you
That's
could
a good
identify or
question.
fit in, or did it change the way you felt about yourself and how you interacted in the world?
It's a really, really good question. And I'm inclined to say no. I'm inclined to say I just wanted to look like everybody else and like
Okay.
blend in and not stand out. But I don't think I knew that that's what I was doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I was like, oh, I don't want to stand out. I don't want to look Arab. I think I just was like, everybody has straight hair.
Why can't
So, and my hair, and I was convinced for a long time that I had bad hair. Like, the trope of like bad curls because it was so frizzy and poofy.
yes.
Um, and then I realized as I got older, like, no, bitch, you just need to learn how to take care of it. But yeah, all through like out high school and stuff, I just was convinced I had bad hair, and like straightening it would make it better. So very stereotypical, we all know the
Well,
story.
so I don't think that that is something that, especially up until recently, really, we or our parents have learned how to navigate is mixed hair. It's different on everybody, and oftentimes it is curly and it is coarse. And as a child, I went through the same thing. I had curly hair, my mom would brush it, and so it was just poof.
Yep.
It
Why don't
wasn't.
you just brush your hair? Like, do you want to know why? I'll show you why.
I know, it's crazy. But now I'm learning that there are companies out there that make product for biracial hair. Have you come across any?
I've tried, I forget what it's called, but it's Tracy Ellis Ross's hair care line.
Okay.
So far, I'm impressed with the product, but I haven't been using them long enough to really be like, yes,
Right.
I swear by this. But so far, I think it's good. I know that mixed chicks was like really popular for a while, but I've also heard that they got bought out and like
That's how
now
it's
it's
shifted.
being made by non-mixed people and blah
Right.
blah blah. So I don't really know. Um, I also like this product called Bounce Curl, and it's made by an Arab girl. So like if any of your listeners are Arab and they're looking for a hair product that might work for them, like I really like Bounce Curl. Um, yeah, it
Okay.
just took finding the right products and the right way to style my hair for me to realize like I don't have bad hair. I actually have incredible hair. I get
Yes, you do.
compliments on my hair literally every single day. And there's like a low key part of me that's like, God, I would kill to have straight, shiny black hair because I think that I listen. I've put a straight, shiny black wig on my head, and I know I have the cheekbones for like a bob, and I know it would look good. But I would I would be really sad if I didn't get compliments on my hair all the time. I'd miss them.
Well,
So,
and honestly, I think that that is beautiful that you have learned to embrace that part of you. I recently also have, and it feels so good. I'm like, oh my God, how many years, how many hours, how much electricity have I used to make my hair what it isn't?
all
And
of the damage and
absolutely, and to now rock it on its good days and its bad days is very, I don't know, it's empowering, and I'm really happy that you have.
there's also this like embrace the curl movement happening, which
Yeah,
I'm so happy to see it. But like 10, 15 years ago, that was not a thing. There was no embrace the curl. In
no.
fact, one of the things that my dad did when I was very young, I was probably maybe like 12. What a dad! He's so sweet. I love my parents. They're my favorite people in the
I
world.
can tell
But
you do.
I really do. He went to like a predominantly black neighborhood and he walks into a salon and he pulled out a printed picture out of his wallet and he showed the girl there and he said, "This is my daughter. What can I buy for her hair?" And
Oh,
she helped him purchase so much stuff. There was picking combs, there was like a rat tail comb, there
oh,
was deep conditioners, there was moisturizers, there was oils, there was so much stuff, and it was like my
no.
Christmas gift because he was like, I bought all this stuff for your hair, and I remember like my mom when I opened it and she saw that I was like, oh my God, all this hair stuff. Like my mom cried. She was like, my husband did this for my daughter.
That is
Like
so unbelievably sweet.
it was a really special thing that he did. He's a great man. A great man.
That's amazing. Well, Sophia, it was such a pleasure to get to know you. Thank you for sharing all of your stories and life intricacies, and it has honestly been a pleasure to get to know you, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I had such a blast talking about this kind of stuff with you. I think we all need to have more conversations like this, especially when it comes to people who exist in a middle space like we do, because with how much division there is in the world, like it's people like us who can have a kind of like this view of both sides in our own existence. We can really like bring the world together, and that's what I hope for.
Absolutely. One final question. What is it that you would like to share with the world?
Wow, that's a big question. It doesn't really have too much to do with the conversation that we've been having. It's just kind of like this mantra that I've led with for the past few years, actually, ever since COVID. But I just think that people, all of us, should do whatever we have to do to be in control of our own lives. I have lived so much of my life with other people dictating who I am, telling me what I should do. You know, aside from all this, you know, like dealing with abuse and assault and racism and stuff like that, like so much of my power has been taken away from me that I have refused to allow it to ever happen again. And I don't want to see anybody ever have their power taken from them. And so my mantra and the thing I encourage everybody to do is just like live a life that you're in control of and do what you have to do to make that happen.
I'm crying. Sophia,
No, don't cry. Don't cry.
That is absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. You are a beautiful human being inside and out, and thank you for sharing your story with the world.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, anytime.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. We want to be here for you, and we can't do what we're doing without your support. Please hit subscribe, and to stay up to date, head on over to mixedmovement.com. That's MIXDMOVEMENT.com to stay up to date with news and more. We are the Mixed Movement. See you next time.